That blaster's on full.
What's up guys, Gripe here with another review. Today we're going to check out the Star Wars Black Series First Order Stormtrooper from Hasbro. So we'll start out by checking out the packaging. It's very typical for your Star Wars Black Series Force Awakens packaging. You got the big window up front, Star Wars logo up top. You've got the picture of the First Order Stormtrooper in the bottom right, along with the figure name to the left of that. And you've got the warning down below. And you can see the figure itself with its accessories through the window. And on this side of the box we have the number 4. It is the 4th figure in the series, also the name of the figure, First Order Stormtrooper. And on the back you've got the Star Wars logo, number 4 again, and a blurb about the Stormtrooper. And here's a close-up so you can read that. And you've also got some warnings down there. And this side you've got the name of the figure again with the wraparound window. And up top you've got a window again, and on the bottom some warnings. Alright, so let's check out the accessories that come with the figure. And this figure does come with 2 accessories. It comes with this blaster rifle, which I believe is the F11D, and it also comes with the blaster pistol. The sculpt on the blaster rifle is pretty good. It's got some nice details on it. It's also got a pretty good paint app. It's got some silver accents there around the scope, which look pretty good. There's also a little touch of gold there, and it's mostly white painted on black for the rest of the gun. And it also comes with this blaster pistol, and this is also nicely detailed with the sculpt, and the paint app on it is pretty good as well. There is some silver accents, otherwise it's just white and black. And unfortunately, like most of the Black Series accessories these days, it's a very soft plastic, it's very pliable. Alright, so now we'll check out the figure itself, and we will start with the sculpt and paint. And overall, I think it's a fairly well sculpted figure. I like the proportions of it. It definitely looks cool. And I do like the glossy white that they've used in place of the matte plastic they had in the original trilogy Stormtroopers. And there are some pretty good details sculpted in here. You can see all these nice little accents sculpted in. Let me zoom in so you can see the nice texture that's sculpted into the helmet here. You can see it in this area. It's very textured and that looks pretty good. There's also some good details sculpted around the helmet here. You've got these little raised areas and notches and so forth that look pretty good. Got some good detail here on the side of the helmet. You can see the sloppiness in this paint here though, especially here in the back and on the other side. This side's not too bad. It does just kind of fade out there towards the end. The details here on the chest are a little sloppy. It's not terrible. It's still fairly good. You can see this arm is actually pretty sloppy while this one is fairly clean. And the back is fairly good. There's really not much of an issue there. Belt is pretty good. There are some small issues, like I wish these mold lines weren't there, but other than that, it's not too bad. The pouches actually look pretty good. They're sculpted well, and most of the paint on the belt is fairly good. There are some slight issues. I also really like the texturing that they added to the belt, which makes it actually look like a real belt, and that's pretty cool. You can see this pouch is a little sloppy on the edges, not too bad, and these pouches just really could use an extra coat of white on the sides there. It does look like it's a black plastic that they painted over. The legs aren't too bad. You can see a little bit of paint that got onto the armor there by the knees. The black on the toes is definitely pretty sloppy though. You can see they got it all up on the armor there. There are some treads on the bottom on the outsides, and it does have 2 peg holes, 1 in each foot. And here's the slot on the right leg where the pistol goes into. And there is some issues with the plastic here on the back of the legs. I'm not quite sure what happened there. I don't know if it's a molding issue or not, but you can see it's a little sloppy. And other than that, the only other thing I noticed was that paint on the index fingers was a little off on these. So now I'll check out the articulation on the figure, and overall it's fairly typical for the more recent Black Series figures in that it's pretty disappointing. Not as bad as some of the other figures, at least as far as the head articulation, but it's not great. You can't get them to look up about that high, which again is not much, but it's much better than some of the other Black Series in the Force Awakens. And he looks down sort of. He kind of really almost looks straight. You can get a little tilt on the head. Again, not a whole lot, but he does have some, so that's a bonus. And you can rotate the head completely around if you want. And while the shoulder joints were pretty stiff, you could get some decent range of motion out of them at least. You can get the arms up about even, maybe just a little bit under, which isn't too bad. And you can rotate the arm completely around the socket. And unfortunately it has the horrible single jointed elbows that Hasbro has been putting in the Black Series recently. As you can see, you're not even getting 90 degrees out of it, which sucks for a guy that's supposed to be posing with a gun. They do rotate at the elbow, It has swivel and hinge wrists. You can rotate that completely around, and it does have some hinging action, although it depends on where you are as far as the forearm armor limiting that. The diaphragm joint is actually pretty good in this figure. You get some good movement forward, as you can see. It also has some pretty good movement backwards, and also side to side is actually pretty good on this figure. There's also some pretty good rotation at the diaphragm. As you can see, get them pretty far over. There's no articulation at the waist, and it has fairly typical Black Series hips. Nothing great. You can get the legs apart that far. A decent kick forward. You're looking at maybe 80 degrees or so. Kick back is actually not that bad either. You're looking at maybe 45. It does have a cut at the top of the thigh, so you can rotate the leg there, although you are limited by the armor. As you can see, it starts to hit the cod piece in the front and back there if you go too far. And that is the only rotation on the leg. And it does have double jointed knees, although you are limited in how far you can bend those by the armor. As you can see, the thigh and calf armor hits. But you could kind of play with that joint to get a little bit farther. It does have some decent articulation at the ankle. You can get that foot really far down, which is nice for kneeling poses. Does not go very far up though. There is no rotation, but it does have the rocker type pivot, and you can get that pretty far over, as you can see. So again, the articulation is fairly typical for the Black Series that's coming out these days. Pretty abysmal up top, and down below it's not that bad. So now we'll check out the size and scale of the figure. And the figure sits at just under 6 inches tall, maybe just by a hair. And here he is next to the other two Force Awakens Black Series figures I own, the Kylo Ren, which is taller, and the Snowtrooper Officer, which is shorter than the Stormtrooper. So overall, he scales pretty well with the rest of the line. And here he is next to the Black Series original trilogy Stormtrooper, and you can see he is just a little bit shorter, but he is stockier than that Stormtrooper. So overall, I think it's a pretty cool looking figure. I do like the sculpt that they put on here. The paint app is not that bad. I've seen worse, especially for Black Series. I think the articulation is pretty abysmal these days. I really wish Black Series would go back to the old type of articulation they had. It's really throwing me from the line. I also don't like the really soft plastic they're starting to use with accessories. Overall, I'd have to say I'm probably going to stay away from Black Series from now on and just focus my efforts on Figuarts and Mayfix Star Wars lines. Alright guys, hope you liked the review. Subscribe for more.
Set blasters on full.